Hi. So my name is Jade. I would absolutely love it if you could tweet at me and like remember the hashtag, which is AoTATX17. But please, I have a science show and I am going to make a video about your amazing events that you guys get to have down in Austin. I heard that Astronomy on Tap was started in New York, but that we're really shit and you guys are way better and like bigger and more popular. So I want to demonstrate this, so like take lots of photos and tweet them at me and use the hashtag, and we're going to put them in a video and we can relive this amazing experience on Thursday when the video comes out. I'm trying to like click, but oh yeah. Okay, so I am the Science Debator. I was formerly the Science Communicator, but that sounded really boring. I grew up wanting to be the Math Debater, but I wasn't very good at math, and like everyone's a math debater these days, so I grew up on a small island off the coast of California called Australia. It's down there. And the cool thing about living in Australia is that like it really starts you for a career in science, because as soon as you step out the front door, everything in nature is trying to kill you. So you really need a deep understanding of the scientific, like the natural world, in order to survive. So growing up in Australia was awesome, and I grew up like absolutely loving science, and I went on to study neuroscience. And I think that not only do I love science, but I think we all love science. Like a lot of people have like posters of Chris Hemsworth's abs up on our walls, but like I have this quote from Neil deGrasse Tyson, who's equally sexy: "If you're scientifically literate, the world looks very different to you, and that understanding empowers you." And I think like we all get that. Like we know like science is just understanding stuff, and like that's cool. And if you know that, then you can like do stuff. So I thought that everyone felt the same way about science that I did, but au contraire, when I was studying science, I realized that there are some people out there that like totally reject science and argue against it, and it drives me absolutely crazy. And I couldn't help myself. I was like arguing with these guys all the time, but it doesn't matter how often you argue with them. It's kind of like this. I know some of you on Facebook sound like you've had the same experience. No matter how good you are at chess, I'm guessing you can all read that. So I've had this experience like really recently at South by Southwest. I was interviewed by a group called InfoWars, who are like really pro-Republican. Yeah, you know them. And they like, yeah, I had like 400 emails from dirty old men being like, "Bet you we fucked her. But also climate change isn't real." So I studied science communication right around, I went from science, I studied neuroscience, and I was so angry at these people, I decided to study a master's degree in science communication. And I thought, maybe if I can just like figure out how to communicate with these people, we can like, you know, bring science to the people that need it. But I studied science communication, and I realized when I graduated two things. One, science communicators don't appreciate, scientists don't appreciate science communicators as much as science communicators appreciate themselves. And two, that means there's no job. So I went to work at Weber Shandwick, who's the world's largest PR firm. And I got to do, that's me like selling my wares. I get to do things like I work for Coca-Cola and help them argue against the anti-sugar lobby, because sugar does not cause diabetes nor obesity. I helped ExxonMobil sell oil in Russia. I helped put Barbie on the front cover of Sports Illustrated, because she is the woman we should all aspire to. And I helped like beauty brands come up with ridiculous slides like this that are like, our product is so good, it's got so much science in it. It has this master switch which turns on the stem cells in your skin. Like we all know, if we've done like basic science, that like there is no little Pac-Man like in your skin that you can turn on, but they charge a lot of money for this stuff. So it kind of works with people. I thought it was a good litmus test. If you believe this, you deserve to lose your money. Don't tell anyone that I told you that. So I think that when I was going through and I was working at PR and I'd come from a background in science communication, I realized there was three major differences in the way that scientists communicate and the way that PR people communicate. One is that in science we kind of have this like assumed engagement, like come to my science class and sit down and I will give you the knowledge and you will pay attention and then you'll know stuff and pass the exam. Whereas in marketing we assume no one gives a shit. So we spend a lot of time like getting really sexy models on our advertisements to try and get your attention in the hope that maybe we can sell you something. In science, we are really information-based. Like, here's the knowledge, it's in a book, you can read the book, you're gonna learn the knowledge. But in marketing, it's all like emotion-based, like open happiness, and like, we're loving it. Like, it's all about emotion. And in science, we assume that you're an empty vessel. So like your brain is empty, you don't know science, and I'm going to tell you the science, and then you're going to know the science, and your brain will be full. Whereas in marketing, we assume that the audience has like hopes and dreams and aspirations of their very own, and if we can just understand you, we can target our message better to you. So I got really tired after like being in the world of marketing and PR and communications, realizing that scientists weren't communicating super well. I got really tired of seeing a lot of really slick commercials that look like this, and then having science communicators still kind of doing it like this. So I'm going to bring you the 3 dirty tricks from the dark side of the marketing world in the hope that some of you will go out and use them to help promote science to the people that need it. Are you ready to be on the dark side? Woo! All right, good, cool. Number 1, know your enemy. This is a quote from Sun Tzu, but it's really, really important in marketing as well. So you guys, you know, we all have studied like basic environment. We know that like trash is really bad. It gets into the oceans and it kills the seagulls and stuff. We don't like having trash on the roads, but we also live in Texas. And if you're in Texas and the government tries to tell you not to do something on a sign, you're just going to end up with a sign full of bullet holes. So they were like, okay, how do we get like, you know, like Bubba with his shotgun who's riding in the pickup truck to not throw the trash out onto the street? And so these environmentalists came up with this slogan that you may have heard of. This actually started as an environmental slogan to stop people from littering. And it was because they understood their enemy. They understood who they were working with. And they were able to like tap into their pro-Texas sentiment and get them to stop littering. How brilliant is that? So if we understand our enemy, we can communicate in a way that's going to resonate with them. Tip number 2, humans are not data-driven people. Scientists are data-driven people. That's why we become scientists and study data. Other people don't. And we still think that they are. So like, is anyone like a fan of these people? Yeah? Fuck you. No, please, no one shoot. I think, because seriously, sport is such an it's so emotional. You guys know, like we do in sport every year, we do this huge experiment where we play all the teams off against each other, and at the end we get the best team. And then does everyone switch to like following the best team and supporting them? No, we like continue to pretend that like my team is the best team, even though all the data is against that. So we know that we make like non-data driven decisions from time to time, and we know as the stakes go up, rationality goes down. So if anyone's had a bad relationship where everyone's like, you need to break up with that bitch, and then like you're like, no, but I love them so much, that's when like our emotions are overriding our rational decision making. And if anyone here is being like, well, I am a scientist and not only have I never had a girlfriend, but I also will make all my decisions based on rationality, au contraire, my friend. MIT scientists have found that when people have damage to the emotional centers of their brain, they literally can't make decisions. So you're like, what do you want to eat for lunch? And they're like, well, the chicken is kind of like delicious, but the beef is a little bit cheaper. But the chicken is pretty tasty, but the beef's more convenient. And they just can't decide. They list all the pros and cons and they can't make a decision. And so what these MIT scientists realized is that emotion is such a core part of our decision-making process, because what we remember from the past is not just the facts, it's whether that we felt good or bad. So when we go and eat a slice of pizza, it's not a rational decision that we're like, pizza is the best for this situation. It's because we remember all the happy times, the good times in the past where pizza has been awesome. And then we eat it again. So the more we can get our messaging out of like the brain and down into as far down the body as we can. Scientists live in this, this is from Randy Olson, and I really encourage you to read his book. Scientists live up here in like the rational world in their brain. If you can like get down into the emotional center of the heart and even like lower into the like instinct of the gut, like gut instinct, or even we all know sex sells. So if you can get like right down into the sex organs, your messaging around science is going to resonate with a lot more people. We all know who Kim Kardashian is, so we know that sex sells. So one example of this is like, This is a pro-exercise message from the Surgeon General, who should know better. We read this and we're like, wow, yeah, like this is totally rational. 30 minutes a day is totally going to make my life better. But is anyone going to exercise more tomorrow? Probably not. Definitely not me. But I'm going to show you, hopefully I can skip to the middle of this, maybe not. I'm going to show you this. This is a very emotional advertisement, which would have been much better if it had come from the Surgeon General, but instead came from a brand. Let's check it out.
Greatness. It's just something we made up. Somehow we've come to believe that greatness is a gift, reserved for a chosen few, for prodigies, for superstars, and the rest of us can only stand by watching. You can forget that. Greatness is not some rare DNA strand. It's not some precious thing. Greatness is no more unique to us than breathing. We're all capable of it. All of us.
Now tell me that doesn't make getting up tomorrow morning a little bit earlier so you can go for a jog a lot more like exciting. And I'm really sad that that came from Nike instead of from our government, who we give this like huge pot of money to make us all healthier. That's a lot more inspiring. Okay, so it's like, how do we be more emotional? Everyone's telling you, use more emotions, but the question is how? So first thing is, we tell stories. So we've all seen this, like if you did the English in high school, if you're telling a story, there's like, oh, we're going about our day. And then there's like, oh no, a conflict. And then there's a crisis, and then there's a resolution. Like this is the basis of storytelling. But I'm going to show you this with a practical right now. So I need someone who likes beer. I have beer. Who likes beer? Who would like to drink some beer on the stage? You've got your hand up over there. What's your name? Natalia, did you come by yourself today? No. Did you bring a friend? Yeah. That's okay. Natalia, can you bring your friend with you? Come up here. Everyone, round of applause for Natalia. All right, Natalia, I need you to have a mouthful of this beer. Just one or some. I'm not going to look. It's okay. Where's your friend? What's your friend's name? Anna. Oh, your mom. Now I feel really embarrassed. Come over here, Anna. Come over here. Round of applause for Natalia and Anna. Woo. All right, so Natalia, this is what I call the and. You've had a mouthful of this beer. Okay, good. All right, cool. So it's not full. I want you to, Natalia, give the beer to your mom, Anna. Here, Mom. Yay, success! Good. This is what we call the and of storytelling. Natalia had a beer, and she gave it to her mom, and she gave it successfully. It's pretty boring. So this is when people tell you a story. It's like, Anna went there, and you know when you've met those people and they just go on and on and on about themselves, it's really boring. So great, I'm going to take this off you and I'm going to give it back to Natalia later. Thank you. All right, Natalia. All right, for number 2, this is just, whoa, clicker. All right, this is despite, however, yet of storytelling. So Natalia, take your next beer, have a mouthful, and then I want you to give it to your mom, Anna, but as you walk across, halfway through, I want you to stop and do an interpretive dance. Okay. Wonderful. All right, you can put the beer down here. Good. Not too close to the laptop. All right, so this is despite however yet. This is how we listen to scientists when they're all together at those academic conferences and they're like talking about something they really know a lot about and they don't ever get to the point because they're so stuck in caveats where they're like, well, genetics is really good despite the fact that a lot of people like epigenetics. However, I think that genetics really has a future. Yet there's some people that disagree with me. It's like, get to the point. All right. So now we're going to do the next one. This is the more exciting one. We're going to make it interesting. All right, Anna. Natalia, I want you to pick up that beer and give it to your mom without spilling any. Watch out for the laptop. Oh no, that's all right. Keep going, keep going, keep going. We didn't see it. It's fine. Yay! She did it. I'm gonna pop that down for you. That was wonderful. Oh, great work, Natalia and Anna. Thank you very much. You get to keep this beer. Drink as much of it as you can. Thank you. This is the and, but, therefore method of storytelling. So, like, Natalia had to give a beer to her mom, and she was very excited about it, but it was so full! Therefore, she had to be really, really careful. This is the DNA of storytelling. So if you ever have to tell a story in 30 seconds or less, just remember to use those 3 words, and it's going to be beautiful. By the way, I work at the New York Hall of Science, and this is what we teach our students. We teach them how to make videos about the museum, and we teach them the and, but, therefore, so they can tell wonderful stories. I want to see you guys using that all the time. All right, third tip, really quickly, unite your army. So once you have a really good story about the science that you're doing, you have to stick with it, because scientists are really bad at figuring out a key message and like sticking to it. We're all about conflict. So you guys know these messages. Have a break, have a Kit Kat. Everyone knows. I'm something it. Who did that? McDonald's. We all know that one. What about... Ooh. Because you're worth it. Wonderful. Who did that? L'Oreal, Maybelline, who knows? A beauty brand. So the thing is, once a brand has a message, they really stick to it. Whereas scientists are like, well, I published a study that conflicted with the other guy, and the public have no idea what to believe. But when it comes to climate change, who knows what this number means? Yes. That's right, 97% of scientists agree climate change is caused by humans. So this was the turning point, because up until this statistic came out, there was so much data around climate change that no one had a story that they could tell. But this one resonated so much that they started things like the Consensus Project to publicize how much everyone was united around this one core message. So once you have your story, you need to get everyone to stick to it and show that there's one consensus around your message and not confuse everyone. So those are the 3 tactics from the dark side. Please take photos. My videographer couldn't be here, so please take all the photos. And thank you. Any questions? And if anyone wants a beer... Does anyone want a beer? For real? There you go. I'm going to drink this little half one. Oh, you came up for it. All right, in that case, go for it. You're welcome. Nothing like giving beer away from the stage.
All right, so that's actually the second talk we've had in the last 4 months that has used beer to explain science. And the third Australian that we've had at Astronomy on Tap ATX. That's pretty cool. So, any questions for Jayde? I see one over on the stairs. Oh, Joel, there you go.
I heard a lot of laughter, so that's good. Comedy is like down in the gut. So you guys were telling stories that resonated with people in their in their organs instead of just in their brains. So that's awesome. I didn't fall asleep. So that's a good threshold. You were wonderful. Absolutely nothing. It was great. I think and also this isn't the public as well. There's like science engaged people. So you can't just be like, here's some pictures. But you have to actually tell them some science. I loved your speeches, so A+. Round of applause for the people that came before.
That might be the biggest compliment Joel has ever had. I didn't fall asleep. Over here.
Inherently a diversity of opinions, and it seems like it should be. So a lot about, if you're presenting a united front, you're not presenting a real front. And you might actually be advancing one particular line of argument that isn't what everyone believes. So how do you sort of negotiate?
That's a really good point. The most argument I see in science... Oh, sorry, yes. The question was, how do we unite our army if science is inherently a place where we're supposed to disagree with each other? So that's a really good point. But I think in science... the biggest disagreements seem to come from people who have either financial or political interests and are funding science that totally conflicts. So I have a science channel called SciQ, and I say things like, maybe we should have less guns. And that's supported by data that would have less dead people. And then a lot of people will send me studies that have, like, they've been published or they're out. One was from the Harvard Law Review, which sounds like a really, like, it's from Harvard, but it's actually a student-run conservative newspaper. So you know that the type of science that's going to be in there is, like, questionable. So I think scientists themselves need to do a better job of calling out when someone's publishing a study that's like way like opposite to what the consensus is, because, and like have a look at who's written it and what their backgrounds are, and actually call them out, because we kind of think like, oh, if it's published then it's, you know, that's fair game. But actually a lot of people are using science for the dark side, and I was one of them, so I can tell you that this is for real. So we need to do a better job of like saying, no, that's wrong, because the public can't tell. They're like, it sounds cool.
Throughout history, has the consensus of science throughout thousands of years later been proved wrong?
Yes. Yeah, but I think we need to do a better job of, like, with the 97%, we were really good at saying, like, this isn't closed. We haven't said there's proof of climate change, but most people think that it's happening. So if you are not a climatologist, you're not a scientist, you can know that the people who are experts say that there's mostly a consensus.
And what's the definition of climate change? If I light a match, it changes the climate.
We need to have a talk after, because that sounds like an interesting debate. Yes.
How much is significant? How much is...
Exactly, and this is what scientists do. And we like confuse people because everyone's like, it sounds too difficult to understand. I totally agree. We need to be having these conversations. But when it comes to reaching out to the public, we can't have the burden of understanding. We can't throw the burden of understanding on the public, because they're just going to be like, I don't know. It's too far beyond me. I'm an accountant and I have like two kids. I can't read these papers for myself. So we need to do a better job of being like, here's the basics. This is what you need to know, so that rather than like it's not right if we try and confuse people with all these caveats.
We eventually find out that's wrong. Cholesterol kills, and now they say, no, actually it's a necessary nutrient.
Yeah, but that's right. But when we have those scientific problems in our own field, we need to do a really good job of communicating with the public. Yeah, if we prove ourselves wrong, we need to be able to outreach to people and explain why we did it wrong. Absolutely.
So also, I just want to cut in that people always bring up the example of Ptolemy as a cosmological model that was consensus for 1,500 years and then was wrong. I will fight anyone who says that, because Ptolemy was totally right. I mean, not in detail. He wasn't trying to explain physics, but it was totally right. So...
Watch out, Facebook. Debates
all right,
here.
so there's a question back here.
At least you're honest.
Just when you point out like the 97% things like that and how science is to make a better connection, are there other examples you can give, or like ways that you think science can do a lot better?
I think that scientists are so often... so the question is, how can scientists unite their message better? Yes? Yes. From some examples. So, and from someone who comes from marketing. Good for you, man. You found a better place. So I think that scientists are often, we focus on our own field. So we'll be like, I'm really concerned with the person from Colombia who's like kind of in my field and has something that's slightly different to what I agree with, and I'm going to focus all my energies on them, rather than trying to figure out how can we work together and explain the basics to the public. So the communication styles that we use in our own field must be different from the styles that we use in the public. So how can we unite? I think we need to figure out, we need to do a better job of it. We're really terrible at it. So we need to get together at a conference and be like, okay, we all disagree, but we're basically like, these are the things we do agree on. Let's go and talk to the public about that, rather than we keep feeding, everyone wants to be published. That's another problem with science. It's fundamentally broken because we're based on a publishing model. So that's a challenge as well that we need to do a better job of calling out.
Okay, just going to take one more question from Dawn.
So using what you just said and relating that to climate change, so you go through all your steps, you get your 97% of scientists obviously we're still failing drastically on convincing the public. So what's the fourth step? So we just hammering it into them until they believe.
That is such a good question. I wish I had 10 minutes today, but I did
you repeat it?
question. Sorry, I'm so sorry. I did it 3 times. The question was, we're obviously still failing at climate change because the public is confused. I think like the basics is we didn't do the first step, which is understand your audience. So if you tell people, I got a question the other day from InfoWars, which was why do you think climate change is real? And also, why do you support the fact that there should be this huge economic intervention that's going to make poor people suffer? And so in that is 2 things. One is climate change, which is a valid question, and one is an economic question. And they are so tightly coupled in most people's brains that we can't get out of it. So we need to understand, okay, if I'm talking to a Donald Trump supporter, how can I frame climate change in a way that's about making America great again? You know? But we don't do that. No one does that. But we could. Yeah, exactly. And so there's other people who've done more research on this than me that will break down people's psyches into authoritarian and egalitarian, and we need to figure out who's our audience on a psychological level. People who are Republicans, it's been demonstrated that if you can talk about purity, family units, and authority, they're more likely to listen to your message. So don't just be climate change is real and you need to give money to the poor so we can solve it, because it's never going to resonate with your enemy. You need to understand what is the messages they want to hear, and then just frame climate change and we're going to win. We need to compete against China. So we need to lead in the green energy revolution, stuff like that. Yeah, and I asked how do we translate these messages to large groups of people? And so the text don't mess with Texas is a good example of taking a message and applying it to a whole state. But it's difficult when you're trying to communicate to a whole group of people because they're really diverse. So we need to be better at fragmenting. Okay, we've convinced y'all. How do we convince them? And let's change the debate because you're already convinced. So it doesn't matter what I say. If I talk about climate change is going to make America great again, you guys are still going to believe in it. Let's work on the next group. So yeah, we need to do a better job of figuring out who we've got access to, we can convince, and what are they going to listen to. Great question.
All right, let's say thank you very much again to the Science Debater.